Well, thank you all for coming, helping us to celebrate our 40th anniversary. And despite popular opinion, I haven't been here for all those 40 years. I know I've got the grey hairs which perhaps prove it, but I haven't been here all that time, although one or two of you have, and with some guests who've come today that I know have been here right from the very start. I'm very glad that they could come. Those who are not involved in the business, I hope you've enjoyed seeing what engineering is all about firsthand, and interested to see a few of the projects that we have underway. And also you should have seen that we haven't left our mining roots behind. This is something that's very dear, certainly to my heart. We're managing to keep our roots, well, hopefully firmly buried. 2 big rams for Cleveland Potash somewhere. Has somebody seen those? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's not many people in the country who can repair this sort of equipment. And I've also had an inquiry this week for a battery of roof supports to go out to Australia. You may have noticed as well in reception the tall white cylinder with a pump handle. That's a Doughty prop. They were made by the thousands from the 1950s to 1980s to hold up the roof in coal mines all over the world. My father worked for Doughty Mining, installing roof supports, but very soon realised that they were doing things inefficiently. So he left and started up his own business servicing Doughty props, based out of my grand's cottage in Stead Street in Eckington. And he weaved his way through some very difficult years of high inflation, 3-day weeks, power cuts, and it was always his ideas and initiative that enabled him to find a way to survive. This included repairing whatever it was that made the curtains open and close at Brimington Crematorium. And apparently the job went very well, but unfortunately they made a moaning sound as they came back together, upsetting many a congregation, until Dad, hiding behind the curtains, found the source of the squeak. And challenging accepted thinking was what he liked best, and this mindset was the basis for Penny Hydraulics. And we still excel at doing what no one else can do, will do, or even dares to do in some cases. My brother John was from a similar mould and relished tasks that could be seen as bordering on the impossible. One particularly problematic example was a beanstalk, as in Jack and the Beanstalk, and it had to grow during the performance at a big West End theatre. Linda's laughing, she knows. Unfortunately, it seemed to suffer from wilt, causing much angst behind the scenes. And from the mid-80s, the company had to move away from the manufacture and service of hydraulic equipment due to Japanese imports and the steady decline in the coal industry. And it was Dad, working with a friend Gilbert Sim, who incidentally invented the Tertha, if anybody even know that. And it was Dad and Gilbert came up with the idea of a crane for a van. Why would you put a crane in a van? After all, it's only 18 inches off the ground. No one had put a crane in a van, and now we have the most extensive range of cranes in the world. No one had made a lift to deliver barrels of beer, and now we manufacture more lifts than anyone else in the UK. No one had put a tail lift inside a van, and now we ship these units all over the world, and this year so far that includes Chile and New Zealand. We designed 2 of the largest mobile TV screens to come out of the back of a lorry, nearly 100 square metres each, and these are regularly seen at music venues and sports events all around Europe. And who else would put the roof on the central dome of the British Museum or repair a Victorian portcullis? This passion for difficult tasks made the acquisition of raising and lowering systems a great fit. Every installation and service is poised for disaster. Drilling a hole in a ceiling painted by Italian Renaissance painter in a royal palace to hang a priceless chandelier. What could possibly go wrong? And it has recently. Further diversification has recently taken us into designing and building handling equipment for the nuclear decommissioning industry. This is very high-end and demanding work, but we are already a preferred supplier for Magnox and Sellafield against many massive multinationals as we invent imaginative but workable solutions to extract, sort and move nuclear waste. We have fantastic talent here at Penny Hydraulics, and at every level our workforce thinks about what they do and are rightly proud of their achievements. And talking of achievements, it is an immense pleasure to welcome Sir David Walker back here after 26 years after opening our first office in factory development. He continues to have the most impressive career in economics and banking, and so how come we could even ask him to take the time to visit Penny Hydraulics? Well, he shares an Auntie Doris with my mum, where a very much younger David Walker and mum were regular visitors. Sir David lived at the police house in Chesterfield, where his father was Chief Constable. He was educated at Chesterfield School, I think now Brookfield School on Chatsworth Road, and he was their first student to go on to Cambridge, where he took a Masters in Economics, and on leaving university to join Her Majesty's Treasury back in 1961. He held various posts there, including a secondment to the International Monetary Fund. Moving to the Bank of England in 1977, he worked his way up to become a director. It is almost incidental that he has also spent time on the boards of many notable companies, including the CEGB, National Power, Lloyds Bank, Morgan Stanley, Legal & General, and in 2012 was appointed chairman of Barclays Bank. And just as if to prove there is no let-up in his enthusiasm, and is looking to the future and future technology, he is currently chairman of a cutting-edge and totally non-traditional investment company called Winton Capital. I would like to hand over to Sir David Walker.
Thank you, Robin. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here after 26 years. And I'm rather put out that I opened a plaque 26 years ago and it's gone. So I hope the one I'm going to take the flag off this year will remain. Thank you, Robin, for not... There's a chairman who introduced the speaker in some situation many years ago, and he said to an audience like this, many of you will have heard Mr. Smith speak before. Those who have not will be looking forward to what he has to say. I want to start on a low note, but I hope end on a high note. The low note is that when we were celebrating 14 years, or whatever it was, when both the John Penny founder and Johnny were thankfully with us, 26 years ago, Chesterfield had a sign on most of the entrances into Chesterfield. I can't remember whether the motorway access road was there then, and it said Centre of Industrial England, and they were just about then being taken down. Well, all those firms have gone, and probably most of you here are too young to remember any of them, but I remember them: Markham's, Brown Donkin, the Tube Company, Pearson's, Potteries, Robinson's have all gone. And I have to say, I think it's pretty unlikely that any of them, or any big manufacturing operations like that, will come back to Chesterfield. And that's the sort of bad news, though Chesterfield seems to be flourishing. But the thing that I want to move on to is where the future, I'm interested in the future. A great problem with people of my age, and I've said this to your chairman, who is my very dear friend from childhood, I think, Pat, or something. We tend to dwell in the past. Well, we shouldn't, and I don't. The future is immensely exciting. And for our country, there are two things that I think are really important, both very relevant here. I think we're really rather good in this country, better than the Chinese, better than the Indians, and I think on a par with the Americans, at using our grey cells imaginatively and creatively, and no one was better at that than the original John Penny and Johnny, his son, Robin, has talked about. And I think part of the future of our country, not necessarily in terms of employing lots of people, but improving the quality of our lives by generating incomes and wealth, is actually through the use of data science. And I'm interested in and involved in companies in that space where we use intellectual capability, maths, statistics, things that are relevant for CAD/CAM design, for example, to solve problems like medicine, engineering, mining, deep sea diving, almost anything you can think of. But the other development in our country that I think is immensely exciting, and that's even more relevant for Penny Hydraulics, is the development of SMEs. SMEs in British government parlance, and when the government talks about an SME, it's talking about a small or medium enterprise. An SME for me means something different. It means, it's nomic, S-M-E. And the S, which in the government language means small, for me means skills. And in the three S-M-E, Penny Hydraulics stands out. And the skilled, dedicated workforce is one of the points of the triangle of this SME. The second point on the triangle, I don't know which is the apex, the second point on the triangle is the M, which is management. And no firm will flourish for more than 5 minutes without a skilled and dedicated workforce and without good management. There was a time when I was younger, but the Bank of England, when people said the problem of our country was industrial relations, and the shop floor were no good and were rebellious, and there were lots of red robbers and all that. I have to tell you, this is not anecdotal. I observe lots of cases. That is absolute baloney and hogwash. In my experience, which was very extensive at a pretty unpleasant time for British industry, most of the problems were generated in the boardroom. And if you had a good management, you probably got good industrial relations. It might be difficult, but with good management, you can have good industrial relations. The third E is enterprise. And what's exciting about Penny Hydraulics is that there's been abundant enterprise. Right from the beginning, Robin didn't mention that after, I think, working in your kitchen or garage, Pat, John graduated. He didn't become religious, and I don't know whether he was religious, but anyway, the headquarters of what was the precursor of Penny Hydraulics moved into a Wesleyan Methodist chapel. And it flourished there for quite a long time, so there may have been some benediction from above the support. We don't know about that. So Penny Hydraulics has had since its conception, and plainly has now in the management leadership you have in Robin and Tim, but in those, some of you I've met today, great skilled workforce, great management, and enterprise. And how could you be doing this nuclear stuff without enterprise that enabled you to crack BNFL or Sellafield or whatever it is, who are desperately in need of the sort of flexible, can-do solutions that Penny Hydraulics is demonstrating that you can do. Two things I want to say about the Penny Hydraulics situation, because I've learned about it very recently. I know about it from afar. One is the importance of family business. At a time when big businesses, listed companies on stock exchanges around the world, are finding it in America, this country, parts of Europe, really difficult to compete with the Indians and Chinese in particular. A small family business has a great advantage. It doesn't have to think about the earnings this quarter or this month, or what's happening to the stock price on the stock exchange in the paper every day. You can take a medium or long-term view, which is what Penny Hydraulics has been doing. So family ownership is a tremendous advantage, and of course it doesn't always work out in the way that it's fortunately worked out here with a founder. And dear Johnny, my godson, who sadly left us 5 years ago, and now his two brothers running the business. But a family business that has these ingredients is in great shape. The other thing I just want to mention, which I think is very important for the country, I'm interested in Penny Hydraulics, but I'm interested in the revival of the right sort of design and manufacturing for our country when coal mining and all those basic commodity sort of industries have died not to return. One thing that we have as a great problem at the moment, not just in a firm like this, is a shortage of people, young people with the right skills. And I just want to put in a plug for apprentices. I'm afraid, I hope I don't offend anyone here, but this country has at the moment far too many graduates in sociology and media studies and stuff like that. It doesn't mean these are bad people, they may be very good people, but what this country does not have is enough aspirant engineers who, even though they may have a mechanical engineering degree, have not had experience on the shop floor. And the way to do this is through schemes of the kind that I've delighted to learn Penny Hydraulics have in place, apprenticeships, and then taking all people also from university to have hard practical experience on the shop floor. So it's with very great pleasure, Robin, with your guidance, I'll lift this flag. For those, we've been talking about economics and business. If I could just descend to Shakespeare, or ascend to Shakespeare for a moment. There's a marvellous expression, I think it's in King Lear, but I'm not sure about that, and if there are Shakespeare scholars here, someone will correct me. But there's a marvellous expression which I've used quite a lot: persever in the present course more fully. Persevere in the present course more fully, which means carry on as you have been doing, and you'll be all right. And that's my wish for Penny Hydraulics. And with a bit of luck, I don't know about 20 years, Robin, but perhaps in 10 years, will you ask me back to open the next extension?
Yeah, well, I think we're ready for it already.
Oh, well, I'll come next year if you'd like that. Especially if I can have a very nice lunch like I had today.
I think so, yes.
Well, every good wish to Penny Hydraulics. Do I lift this?
Yeah, I think so. That's it, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think it's tea and buns for everybody. Is Chris here? Tea and buns, Chris. He's listening now. Thank you.